morning, everyone. However you are watching The Sweat, wherever you are watching The Sweat, we appreciate you. Alongside Jessie, Coffield, I am Emerson, Lotzia, and we host The Sweat.
How many times can you say The Sweat in our opening?
I can do
Sweat.
It. Okay, you want me to do it some more?
Okay, I'm just kidding. So
right,
what's
cool.
this show called again?
The Sweat.
Okay, good to know. And what all of you at home should know is for the next 60 minutes, we're talking NFL Week 15 odds, President's Cup prop bets, and a ginormous slate in the NHL.
Yeah, 12 games there, 4 games in the association, easy peasy. So let's go ahead and start there with DraftKings contributor Gary and Thorne and Ben Zwyman, NBA editor for DK Nation.
Hey.
I can't believe you are up this early. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's what I do now. I wake up early for the new job.
Huh. That's not what I hear.
Baby.
Anywho, guys,
What?
please pay attention. The game's called What Are the Odds? Peeping some of the bets available on the DK Sportsbook.
Starting with the Wizards at Hornets, it's the highest total on the slate. Do you think this one will go over 231.5, Garion?
I just wanted to be known that I also don't like getting up early.
Yeah,
so
and it's even earlier for Garion.
Oh,
I'm gonna put that out there too. Look, this game is begging for you to take the over, and I want to because these teams are terrible, and they're both terrible defensively, which is probably the key here. And the Wizards are just so up-tempo and terrible on defense that they tend to just generate over after over after over. But at the same time, the Hornets are super slow. They're kind of like the Redskins of the NBA. Their last 10 games, they're running at the slowest pace in all of basketball. They've also had the under hit in 5 of their last 6 home games. It's a really high number. I'm going to take the under here.
Ben, you going under?
Come on, Gary, you got to man up and you got to take the over here. Again, like you said, both teams are really bad defensively, so we should see a lot of scoring. I think the Wizards will up the tempo, like you said again. And I mean, the Hornets are coming off a bad loss to the Hawks. So yeah, at home also. So they gave up 122 points to the Hawks. What do you think the Wizards are going to do? The Wizards have a ceiling of like around 130, 135 points tonight. If they reach that ceiling, they're still going to give up over 100 points because they don't play defense. So I think the over is the way to go here.
Oakley dokley. On the flip side, we have the Nuggets visiting the 76ers, also known as the lowest total on the slate. Who thinks it's staying under 206? Benjamin?
Yeah, I think here's a spot where you can look at the over or the under rather. Again, both teams are really good defensively. Both are in the top 5, and the Nuggets are second in defensive rating. The Sixers are a top 10 defense. Both teams play at a slow pace. I think the matchup of Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid will really be the highlight here, and you'll see those guys go at it. And again, they'll take up a lot of time, more in the half court. You won't see a lot of fast breaks in this game. So yeah, I think the under is where you're gonna have to lean.
Gary and Benjamin has me sold on the under.
I'll resell you.
Thank you.
If that's a thing. I'm like a used car lot salesman.
Yeah, you are.
Last 10 games for the 76ers, 7 have gone under. Last 6 games for the Nuggets, 5 have gone under. These are 2 defensive-oriented, slow-paced teams, like Ben was saying. And another box they happen to check, neither takes a lot of three-pointers. They're both very 90s-based offenses. They are 27th and 25th, respectively, in percentage of their field goal attempts that come from beyond the arc. So there's really not a lot about this game that says it's going to be high scoring.
Atlanta, the worst team in the Southeast Division, takes a trip to Miami, the best team in the Southeast Division, and the Heat are favored by 9.5 at home. Can they cover that spread, Garion?
I think they can. If there's been 2 really consistent traits about the Heat so far this season, it's they play well at home and they take care of business against bad teams. They are 9-2 ATS the last 11 times they faced a team below 500. They are 9-2 ATS their last 11 home games. They're tied with the Bucks for the best net rating at home in all of basketball. They took care of the Hawks the first 2 times they faced them. I think they do it again for a 3rd time.
All right, what are you going to say about this one, Ben Zwyman?
Yeah, I mean, Gary pretty much said everything you can possibly say about a Heat Hawks matchup and taking the Heat on the spread, because I think that's the way you should go. Yeah, like you mentioned, they played each other in a back-to-back earlier in the season. I believe the Heat won by 9 in one of those games, so didn't necessarily cover the spread, but it was pretty close. A couple injuries to worry about, but I'm not too concerned. The Heat probably won't have Justice Winslow tonight and Goran Dragic, so you're going to see a lot of Jimmy Butler, which I think plays in the favor of the Heat. I mean, when Jimmy Butler has the ball for the most of the game and he's playing upwards of 40 minutes most of the time, especially recently, he's been on a real tear. He's got a couple triple-doubles in his last couple of games. So I think this is a spot where Jimmy Butler can really dominate. And yeah, I mean, the Heat should go up early and they should sort of run away with this game.
Ben, the Knicks are road trip into Portland. Another thick and juicy spread here. With New York entering as a 9-point underdog, how do we feel about the worst team in the league covering against former friend and foe Carmelo Anthony and the Blazers?
Yeah, I actually think the Knicks can cover this spread. They obviously fired David Fizdale last week. They played a game over the weekend against the Pacers with Mike Miller as interim coach, and they actually almost beat the Pacers, who are a playoff team. So I think they're going to be a lot more competitive. I think the rotation will tighten up a lot more. I think Miller will do a better job with that rotation. And yeah, I mean, I think the Knicks team is more motivated now, right? They have a lot of veteran guys that want to go out and prove themselves. I bet there's a lot of guys that want to go stick it to Melo, maybe not former teammates, but they sort of know the narrative tonight, right? It's all about Melo. So I think guys like Marcus Morris, guys like Julius Randle, they want to go out and they want to perform. So yeah, I think this is a high spread for the Blazers. The Blazers aren't a very good team. They're below 500. They're not really in the West playoff picture. They're sort of getting back into the picture, but yeah, I think the Knicks can actually cover the spread, and I would follow the lines a little bit. If it starts to get into double digits, I think this is a spot where you can really jump on some value with the Knicks.
Garion, take us on a trip down narrative street.
I mean, first let's take a trip down memory lane, because I want to preface this by saying I think the last 17 times you guys have asked me about the Knicks as heavy road underdogs, I've said, yeah, the Knicks can cover this massive spread, and they've lost by about 116 points each time. So take what I say with a grain of salt, but okay. I think Ben's right. I think this is too big a line. And, you know, everything he said about the Knicks is correct. Their starters, their best starters, really seem to play a lot more minutes in that contest under Mike Miller. I mean, 4 of their 5 starters played over 30 minutes, which is something we don't see from the Knicks a whole lot. And Portland's also not very good. They have a negative net rating since Melo showed up, despite the fact big NBA, big Melo would have you believe that Carmelo Anthony is fixed and is good again. But more importantly, they've only covered 4 of their last 16 home games against the spread. So it's just a pretty big number. Give me the Knicks.
We'll talk more about this Knicks-Blazers game coming up when you two give us your showdown picks. But first, a friendly reminder of Jeff Ulrich's hot take on Eli Manning from Monday's episode of The Sweat.
Oh, yeah, you got to chase this. It's the Eli narrative. I don't even know what game this is. Maybe his second last game. Maybe it's his last game. But you got to chase this. I mean, look, and again, there is a couple factors here. It's not just that it's you know, this narrative thing coming on, but you know, Eli Manning through his career has worked Saquon Barkley well, and he's also worked against the division well at times too. So, you know, going up against a weaker Eagles secondary with Golden Tate back, Darius Slayton on the outside, and even, you know, James Smith working at tight end without Evan Ingram, I think Eli Manning is in a position here to put up some yards. He might not equal out to like a Giants win or a ton of fantasy points, but I could easily see him putting up 280, 290 yards in kind of a comeback role. That's what Eli Manning kind of did. He was never that like prolific a touchdown passer, but he's pretty good at putting up yards, and especially in garbage time. So all things considered, I think the Eagles will probably be able to run the ball a bit, keep Carson Wentz totals down. Yeah, I like Eli. I like Eli's passing goal. I like to go over.
Steve, what do you think? Oh, he looks confused.
Oh. Go ahead.
I'm waiting for Jeff to say, like, JK, just kidding. It was just a joke. Here's my real answer.
Jeff Ulrich and Reed Fowler are here.
Ugh.
Jeff, for the first half of Monday's game, it looked like you were going to be right about Eli.
Yeah, I was popping the champagne. Darius Slayton was going for multiple touchdowns. Carson Wentz hadn't thrown a good pass for like 3 quarters. And then they just started letting them do dump pass after dump pass to Boston Scott, and all of a sudden Carson Wentz is at 300 yards. The game goes into overtime. What a ridiculous turn of events. That bet should have.
Reed, are you sad that you missed yesterday's show?
I am. I'm not sad that Steve Buchanan actually would have reiterated what I would have done. But, I mean, you're watching that first half. Eli looked like he had a competent game plan, and Pat Shurmur put that guy out there, and it looked like the Giants and Eli was going to kind of, ride off into the sunset, potentially getting that 2-minute drill at the end, but it just didn't come to fruition. But, I mean, look, Jeff was kind of right. He didn't have a bad fantasy game. He had 2 touchdowns and no picks, and that's like really good for Eli when he hasn't played for 2 months.
Yeah, it's not like he busted here for your daily fantasy.
Yeah,
I mean, if the game flow had gone a little bit differently, he probably would have hit over there.
Well, and look, Daniel Jones might not be in again for Week 15, and he gets the Miami Dolphins.
You get one more chance to play Eli.
Okay, great. So Jeff's boomer bust hot takes will continue for another week.
Yes.
Look forward to that. Let's get into the waiver wire, though, here, guys. Need your best waiver wire pickups at each position. The players that are going to help the people at home win their fantasy football semifinals here. I don't know if you need help at this point. Good luck with you. Jeff, who is your choice at quarterback?
Okay, so why didn't we play my video from last week's waiver wire segment where I told everyone to play Mitch Trubisky? And I actually said that. And what did he do? He had like the best game of the year.
I know, but anyone...
Jeff's like, do you guys remember that time?
Anyone following you on Twitter, though, realizes that you were quick to toot your own horn.
Wow. I mean, you got to take the good with the bad.
Yeah, it's true.
I still like Mitch Trubisky this week. And look, I mean, this is a player who's hit over 75% of his passes the last 2 games. And it's not just this week, but he gets the Kansas City Chiefs next week. So you've got 2 pretty good matchups here. I mean, the Green Bay defense, yes, they're okay, but they don't have a great pass rush. A little bit banged up in the secondary, too. And again, Trubisky is completing a lot of these sort of like, I don't want to say easy throws, but high efficiency throws now. And then he's completing a couple tougher ones downfield. I mean, this is a good recipe for success here, almost regardless of the opponent, considering some of the players that the Chicago Bears employ, like Tariq Cohen on these shorter passes. So his yards after the catch, he's been running more lately too. He's averaged 7 carries over his last 3 games, which was really good. I think that's a huge factor in Mitch Trubisky's fantasy success. I think he's going to put up another decent game. I think you roll with him over some other mediocre quarterbacks with tougher matchups.
Reed, a quarterback that could be available on the waiver wire who you think could put up a decent game.
Yeah, I just want to mention, Emerson, that you're teasing a guy about his Twitter action when you, in fact, also like to toot your own horn. So let's call a spade here. And also
that could not be further from the truth, buddy. I'm the most humble man on planet Earth.
He also tweets from his dog's account. But getting back to the matter at hand here, you're exactly. I mean, when you look at quarterbacks and what you need right now, right? You probably have someone like a Tom Brady, or you're worried about Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson with these minor injuries. So you're either looking for a backup, because right now, if you're on week 15 and you're looking for a quarterback to stream, you're talking about guys like Mitch Trubisky. So you're not going to get QB1 potentially, but you have to play the matchups. Ryan Fitzpatrick, for me, is someone that you can potentially plug in there. Look, he might not be with, he probably won't be with Devontae Parker or even Albert Wilson, his top 2 targets in that offense. You might see a lot of Mike Gesicki. You might see a ton of Patrick Laird getting passes out of the backfield. But it's about matchups. And look what Carson Wentz was able to do against the Giants. I mean, he threw for 50 times. And so if you get Ryan Fitzpatrick at 50 attempts, look, 3 of those might be interceptions. But we've seen guys like Jameis Winston throw 3 or 4 interceptions and put up 500 yards and be the QB1, which is a weird thing to say, right? He's like the best, worst quarterback that we've seen this season. That's kind of like Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? He's able to get those yards on the ground. We saw him run last week in that game with 47 field goals and not 1 touchdown, but he still had a solid floor without throwing a single touchdown and being without his best. And what we've seen now out of Devontae Parker, one of his best seasons, if not his best season, without him for 3.5 quarters. So Ryan Fitzpatrick's not going to have a lot of trust because you don't have your top 2 guys there. But if one of them can get healthy, that's going to be a plus matchup for him.
All right, how about who you're looking to pick up at running back, Reed?
It's DeAndre Washington. Josh Jacobs was a game-time decision. He was eventually ruled out, so he might be here for Week 15. And if that's the case, Washington is not someone that you want to pick up because he's going to be virtually unusable. But they get the Jaguars. Sorry, Emerson and Jeff here, but the Jaguars look like they've given up that the defense is just not currently there. Phillip Rivers is chirping into Ngakwe's ear about a 90-yard touchdown. And it just looks like the Jaguars just don't have what they had at the beginning of the season. They really shouldn't have gone away from Gardner Minshew, who I forgot to mention, who's potentially another person that you could pick up if you're really hammering or clamoring for someone. He gets Oakland. Oakland's a bad defense. The Jaguars, look what they've done. They've given up huge games to Tennessee. They just gave up a huge game to Austin Eckler. And what does DeAndre Washington kind of remind you of? Is that Austin Eckler type satellite back? We saw him get the touches that he got. And coming out of the draft, when he did DeAndre Washington, he was compared to some of these guys like Maurice Jones-Drew. That's a pretty big comparison, and he's a talented back. So if Josh Jacobs doesn't play, go get Washington.
Over to Jeff with the great morning sign behind him.
Yeah, you don't have to apologize about Jacksonville anymore. That one just didn't work out.
Yep, we're done.
Hey, Jesse, do you like classical music?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, let's do it. Emerson?
Just say yes.
Yes.
He does.
Good, because you can roster Mozart this week.
Oh, let's go.
The San Francisco 49ers. I mean, this guy's probably still available on most waiver wires. I mean, he played 60% of the snaps last week for the 49ers, even with my boy Tevin Coleman, who's another not so great this year. But look, I mean, he's moved into basically the lead role for the San Francisco 49ers, and for good reason. He's been their most explosive back, even in a limited role. So he's catching passes. He's averaged 15 touches over his last few games here. I mean, yeah, this is a player you need to ride. I mean, the San Francisco offense, it almost doesn't matter who they're going up against because they've been so explosive, scoring over 30 points per game, essentially, over the last 5 or 6 outings. If he's out there, I mean, I would not have a problem riding him for one more week. Obviously, the matchup is great, too. I don't think I need to tell you about Atlanta. But, look, Mostert is absolutely in a lead role right now. He might get a few touches taken away here or there by Matt Breida, but I wouldn't be shocked if Kyle Shanahan just kept riding him. I mean, he's been their best player. He's in one of the most prolific offenses. If he's out there, you got to grab him and play him this week.
And he's doing it on like 13 touches, too. He's not doing it on 20, so he's extremely efficient. This is the guy who's getting all the goal line touches, too, and they're deploying 3 backs. So,
Chap, best waiver wire pickup at wide receiver.
I'm going to go Justin Watson of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, I think everyone knows the news about Mike Evans. Bruce Arians said he'd be shocked if Mike Evans played this week. Watson's a talented player. He's very productive in college. Just basically didn't get a shot yet with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's in his second year with them because of the depth of their wide receiver position. But, I mean, no Mike Evans out. I mean, people might flock to Brashad Perryman. I think that's probably a mistake. Brashad Perryman, at best, is just a deep threat. He's proven that throughout his whole career. Justin Watson, with volume last week, really paid off. 7 or 8 targets, and he only played 55% of the snaps. You could easily see that snap rate go with a full game. I like Justin Watson. Again, if you're thin a wide receiver, you got injuries, or you just don't have Mike Evans, definitely pick up Justin Watson.
How about you, Fowler?
yeah, Zach Pascal, we've seen him now get 20 targets over the last 2 games. With Ebron and Hilton probably still out. Obviously, check if those guys, well, not Ebron, but with Hilton, check if he's in. Zach Pascal's getting all those targets. So if you lost Evans, right, if you lost Devontae Parker, some of these guys, you're probably going to see a guy who's going to get 8 targets. That's really good. Saints is a decent matchup. We just saw a lot of points get put up against the Saints that you can't exploit that secondary. So I like Pascal.
All right.
All right, thanks, guys.
Reed, I think my dog just messaged you on Instagram, so check that out.
Okay, so Emerson.
I can't wait.
Emerson runs his dog's Instagram account. We get it.
Dude.
We get it. All right, put on your golf caps, you two, because you'll be right back to take a betting look at the President's Cup right after Pat Mayo gives his picks.
I'm Pat Mayo with the DraftKings preview for the President's Cup. Team USA is squaring off the internationals with 24 of the world's best off to Melbourne for the 13th incarnation of the President's Cup. The United States, big advantage in this event over the years with a 10-1-1 record overall. And looking at it this time around, with the Americans sporting an average world golf ranking of 12.6 and the highest ranking member of the internationals, Adam Scott, checking in at number 18, there's a pretty good chance the U.S. adds another win to the history books. But some positive news for the internationals. Their only win did come at this location at Royal Melbourne back in 1998. For the DraftKings game, makes this far more competitive, for us at least. Like all golf events on DraftKings, you pick 6 players for your team. But this time around, there's a wrinkle with the captain spot, which means designate one player for your team as captain, and they'll get 1.5 times their normal points. The issue is, you also have to spend 1.5 times what they'd cost as a regular player. Lineup lock is at 3 p.m. Eastern Time Wednesday, and you're best waiting until that morning before filling out lineups. Having players who win is obviously the key, but you can do yourself a huge favor by just taking players that are most likely to play in the most matches, because not everyone does. So wait for the first teams to be announced and don't take anyone who is sitting the first session. Pair your favorite picks with maybe their day one partners to double your points. For me, Justin Thomas is a lock to play every session and enters as the hottest American player. Take him. He's expensive, but a must. On the other side, Louis Oosthuizen's the pick. He's been a beast for the internationals in this event in the past and has been scorching worldwide, entering play with 3 top 6 finishes in his past 4 starts, including a runner-up last week in Australia. That was your DraftKings preview for the President's Cup. For an extended breakdown, check out the Pat Mayo Experience wherever you download your podcasts. I'm Pat Mayo.
1. Well, right now it's almost 2:30 on Wednesday morning in Melbourne, Australia, home of the President's Cup, and I know for a fact people are just getting home from a long night out and are watching us right now.
No pressure, golf gurus. DraftKings contributors Jeff Orrick and Reed Fowler. Let's take a sports betting look at this team event.
It's biennial.
Yeah, I don't know why you put that in there.
I put that in there because I Googled it, and it stands for every other year. America is a major favorite at minus 345. What chance does the international squad have here, though, Reed?
I missed you, Emerson. Look, 0 to 1%. Like, the perfect storm has to happen for the international team, and you get a guy like Dustin Johnson who hasn't played for 4 months. Brooks Koepka is sitting courtside at the Lakers game. Tiger Woods is potentially torn between captaining and playing, and he was just hosting an event. Patrick Reed potentially cheated. So, like, you have the makings of an upset in that 1% category, but all of those things potentially have to happen. A lot of guys have kind of, laid that out on Twitter that it's sort of a perfect storm because, like, the international team, just the rankings, like the players that they have just don't compare. The worst player on the team for the USA is Ricky Fowler, and he's ranked 24th to 25th, and clearly that's not the case with the international team. It's going to be tough, but look, stranger things have happened.
Yeah, just a friendly reminder for everyone watching at home, it's USA versus the world minus Europe. So the international squad here, Jeff, what kind of chances you giving them?
Whatever. I don't care. You can play it next week. I think the international team is going to win this week.
Whoa.
I think they're really good value too. Look, yes, I mean, I know they've won once in the entire event's history. But look, the last time this event was played on an international course, it came down to the last hole. I mean, the international squad almost beat a better U.S. squad. I think it was in South Korea that year. So this can happen. I feel like the international squad is better than it was in 2015. I feel like the U.S. squad is coming in with a lot of issues, as Reed already went out. Dustin Johnson might only play 3 matches. All the other guys are in bad form. Like, Bryson hasn't had a top 5 for forever. Ricky hasn't played the entire fall series. All these international players have been playing. Sung Jae Im has been playing every week. Louis is just ripping up course after course. Adam Scott's been out there in the fall. I think this international squad, considering the venue of Royal Melbourne, where all these guys have been playing, and the U.S. team now goes from Tiger's cushy little event, and now they got to travel 24 hours to a different time zone. It's a horrible setup. There's no way I would bet the Americans as favorites. And I understand there's a big talent difference, but just from a pure value perspective, I like the internationals at plus, whatever they're at. Plus 300, plus 275. I take it this week. I think they're very live underdog here.
Yeah, we all know it's because of Louis Oosthuizen. He's on this team that just on the international squad. But it's kind of akin to like what we see in March Madness, right? The Sweet 16, the teams that come in number 1. And all these guys, like Patrick Cantlay, he came in second to last at the Hero War Challenge. Like, none of these guys are actually playing that good. The fatigue might be setting in. I just don't think it's going to happen. Look, I mean, betting on maybe if you had a healthy Jason Day. But
look, I'm not trying to put it out there as some lock, but I just feel like, especially from betting, I don't think you can take the tiny odds that you're getting for Americans, considering the form they're coming in. So that does make the international side pretty live at whatever you're getting. I think they're a solid underdog bet.
All right, Dustin Johnson and Justin Thomas are both plus 500 to lead the USA in scoring. Which one do you like better, or would you go with someone else entirely, Jeff?
I mean, look, for DraftKings purposes, Dustin Johnson is the biggest wild card on the board. He skipped the event, the Hero World Challenge, because he wanted an extra week to rehab. So if he wasn't confident in himself playing 4 straight rounds in a stroke play event last week, how confident is he going to be going out there for 4 days for the match play event? I mean, you've just got to figure the Tiger's going to rest him for at least 1, possibly 2 of the team events, of like the alternate shot or the best ball events, and then what are you left with? You basically have no shots. So you've got to take Justin Thomas here, who's coming in as the Americans' best player. He's in fabulous form. He already had a win over the fall series. He's basically a lock for 5 matches. I would be shocked if he didn't play all 5. And if he does play all 5, he's going to have a great shot at hitting this. So Dustin Johnson, major wild card. Maybe for like GPPs and DraftKings play, you throw him out there, but not for a bet here. It's got to be Justin Thomas.
Reed, who's your pick?
Yeah, same. You got to look at the guys who are going to play the most. Justin Thomas is that player right now. You look at the format: 5 4-ball matches on Thursday, 5 4-sum matches on Friday, and then you have the rest in terms of the weekend. And Justin Thomas he fits that mold. If it's not Patrick Reed, who's probably going to be playing in all of these, like Justin Thomas, 6-1-1 in team formats, 8-9-1 in singles, which includes the match plays that we see the WGC match play tournament throughout the year. Like, yeah, he's the best guy, Dustin Johnson. I mean, we just don't know. We don't get the same type of injury reports from golfers that we do in other sports. We have no idea how this guy's coming into it. Go with JT.
Hideki Matsuyama is the favorite to lead the international squad in scoring at plus 350. How solid of a pick is he, Fowler?
Yeah, I'm going to say he's not. Hideki, again, another wild card, right? He kind of doesn't show up in these bigger events. I don't necessarily see him as a team guy. Like, if you're not going to go with the favorites, go with the young guns. The guys have no experience, don't know what to expect. Joaquin Niemann at plus 1,400. Sungjae Im at plus 900. Look, Sungjae has been playing well. He's playing a ton of golf. He played like 6 out of 7 in the first 7 tournaments in the fall season, and Joaquin Niemann won. So look at those guys because they really don't know what this is all about. Young guys don't really care about all the prestige of the old guys and kind of needing a rite of passage. I like the young ones. If not, guys like Adam Scott and some of the guys that are going to be from the local Australian side of that team.
What do you think, Jeff?
I mean, this is going to be Hideki's 3rd President's Cup. He's gone 500. He's got a 500 record in his last 2 President's Cups, so it's not terrible. But, I mean, Reed's right. He hasn't really shown up to this event for the international squad. And they need him to show up this week because, world ranking, whatever, he's essentially their best player. I mean, Adam Scott and Oosthuizen are pretty close there, too. But they really need a big week from Hideki. It wouldn't shock me if he came through and he put up, like, a really sort of head-turning, like, he went like 4-1 or something for the week because the international squad is going to win. That's what they're going to need from Hideki. I don't think he's necessarily the worst bet. I think if you're getting better odds on Oosthuizen, I'd go there just considering his match play record. I mean, Oosthuizen has a much better match play record than Matsuyama. Obviously, has been the international leading scorer the last 2 President's Cup, so that's good. I kind of like Reed's idea, though. I think if I was going international, I would probably take a shot at one of the younger guys. I'd go Cam Smith personally. Lots of experience playing these Australian courses. Really good wedge player, good birdie rate. I think he could come out hot, and then if he does, they'll probably ride him in all 5 matches. So I kind of like that from a long shot perspective.
Jeff, there's also a bet for top overall point scorer. Pretty good odds for Adam Scott at plus 1,100 on his home turf. Do you like that bet?
Not really. Adam Scott has never been the most prolific match play player. Again, he's another player who's going to have to play solid for the international team, but I think if I was going for the overall title, I would probably go Oosthuizen over Adam Scott. And again, I think you can look a little bit lower in the odds. I think from the American squad, Webb Simpson is really interesting. I mean, we're talking about all these issues the Americans have, and yeah, they're going to have to ride Justin Thomas, but they might have to ride Webb Simpson too. I mean, it's a player with a couple top 10s in the fall series. He had a winning record the last time out at the Ryder Cup, has tons of experience compared to the rest of the players there. I think if you're looking for like more of a long shot, I'd go Webb Simpson. Probably go Oosthuizen over Adam Scott, but I think the safer play is just to get a piece of Justin Thomas for the top point getter.
All right, Reed.
Yeah, I mean, with Adam Scott, I mean, you're going to have to, right? If you're going with the international narrative, like Jeff was saying, Adam Scott just presents the best, I guess, outcome, right? Mixed with calculated risk because that it's in his home country and he's been playing. Well, he's like the quintessential like players captain on that team. But if you just look at just this entire narrative, I just don't like it. I mean, you have someone like Patrick Reed at plus 1,600. Like, he is a guy that's tailor-made for this event. 15-10 in 3 in singles, 8-5 in 3 in team formats. All of that garbage that was done last week with what he did in that native area in the sand. Like, he's going to be coming in hot in this matchup. So at plus 1,600, just think of Patrick Reed.
Reed, quickly here, the man who makes the golf world all hot and bother, Tiger Woods. He's plus 1,600 for that same prop. So would you chase those odds?
No, I would not. I think he's just been too torn. Give me Matt Kuchar, another long shot. He's been playing terrible, but he's excellent in these match play formats.
Ooh, Jeffrey, thoughts on Tiger here?
I mean, he could definitely have a good event. The problem with Tiger is I almost guarantee he's probably going to sit himself for at least one of these matches because he's the captain. That just gives you, it just lessens your upside so much in this category. I just don't think he can pull the trigger there. I'd rather go with like a Kuchar or Simpson too.
All right, we'll have you two back to discuss Week 15 NFL spreads right after Steve Buchanan reacts to a historic deal for Steven Strasburg.
The Nationals and Steven Strasburg land on a 7-year, $245 million contract after he opted out of the final 4 years and $100 million of his original contract. This is the richest in both total value and average annual value. That is, of course, until Garrett Cole ends up signing his contract this offseason. It's an unbelievable move by the Nationals to be able to retain him, a 3.09 career ERA at Nationals Park, and it keeps Steven Strasburg and Max Scherzer together for at least 2 more years. Of course, we can't forget what Strasburg just did in the postseason, going 5-0 in 5 starts with a 1.98 ERA and 47 strikeouts.
The man, the myth, the legend, Chris Wassel of Awesemo.com. Here for NHL opening faceoff, we need you to choose between the top options at each position in tonight's huge, ginormous, large 12-game slate.
All right, we start at center. Are you paying up for McDavid tonight? He's 8,500 against the Hurricanes. Or paying down to Mark Scheifele, 6,600 in a good matchup at home against Detroit?
Can't believe I'm saying this, but I got to be honest. I got burned the other night by McDavid.
Oh.
So did a lot of other people, unfortunately. The matchup looked great. It's Buffalo. Buffalo's got awful penalty kill. It looked nice, and then of course he did nothing, and it sucked.
Stabbed us in the back.
So,
yeah.
As much as I like to go McDavid and Draisaitl tonight, they have a pretty good matchup. Scheifele actually has an even better one against. Look, Detroit is historically bad defensively. This is a team that literally can give up 4 goals in a blink of an eye. We saw it Saturday against Pittsburgh, where the other night against Pittsburgh, where they just gave up. They actually gave up on the ice. You could see the body language. Once Pittsburgh scored a couple goals, that was it. That game was functionally over. And Winnipeg is another team that's capable of doing that. Their power play is not great. Again, Detroit's is so bad that their penalty kill, that you can take advantage of that. And Scheifele could have himself a very nice night, and so could a guy, say, like Patrick Laine as well.
Okay, on the wing, my friend, Tampa Bay and Florida are expected to play a high-scoring affair. Would you pay up for Nikita Kucherov of the Lightning, 7,900, or maybe look at Panthers winger like Jonathan Huberdeau at 6,500?
Honestly, if this wasn't a 12-game stack and this was something that was, say, maybe a 5 or 6 or even 7-game stack, I would type of slate. I would actually game stack the living daylights out of this contest, just because. You look at the last 4 or 5 matchups. These are teams that average typically combined about 8 goals a game, and well over 70 shots. So imagine your thought process here. You got 2 high event teams, and you have Tampa Bay. By the way, played last night, so they're going to be a little tired too. So it's going to just lend into this offense-heavy matchup. Now, for me in this one, I actually will tilt a little bit more towards Nikita Kucherov and pay up, just because of the poor performance that he had last night, unfortunately.
All right, on the blue line, the 2 highest priced defensemen are Roman Josi and Dougie Hamilton. Both will cost you $7,200 tonight. Who's in a better spot?
The better spot actually belongs to, you guessed it, not Roman Josi necessarily.
Whoa.
That's right. Dougie Hamilton, indeed. And this is why. Although Minnesota is winning, and I understand that. Look, Minnesota's turned their season completely around. Here's the problem in the thought process. You're looking at a San Jose team that has actually tightened up a bit against, as far as daily fantasy. This was a team that 3 weeks ago was giving up the 5th most points to defensemen in DFS and DraftKings. They are now the 7th hardest team to get points off as a defenseman in DFS. So that means in the last 3 weeks, guys, they've been first or second, which is pretty staggering considering it is San Jose after all. So, again, Hamilton has a little bit better of a matchup. You got to think of thought process here in peripherals. Hamilton also with a bit of an average. So if, God forbid, both guys clunk and say get no points as far as goals or assists, you have to side with Hamilton.
Mr. Wassel, not a lot of confirmed netminders as of right now, but give us a guy who could be in a good spot if he gets the nod between the pipes.
Yeah, this is always the problem with morning skate coming, a little bit later. You're sitting there kind of scrambling. It's like, is there a confirmed goalie? Yeah, there's a couple, but here's one that's interesting. That's in a good spot, and then I'll hedge and present a couple others real quick. Laurent Brossoit is in a pretty good spot tonight for Winnipeg. He is probably one of the very few confirmed starters at this stage in the slate. There's a couple guys that are likely, but he is the only guy right now that is confirmed in net for Winnipeg. And yes, his numbers are not great, which means his price on DraftKings is a little lower than it should be. And that would be one good matchup. The other one, guys, I'm gonna have to take a drink for this one because
whoa!
Yeah, because this is a tough one, but he's been playing better of late, and that is Sergei Bobrovsky, who for 6 weeks looked like the Sergei Bobrovsky who slumped the last year and the year before that in October. But he has won 5 of his last 7 games, and his last 2 games he stopped 63 of 65 shots, looking like the Bobrovsky of old. This is a true litmus test for him tonight against Tampa Bay. Even though, yes, Tampa Bay, played last night, but it's still a big test for him because we're trying to figure out, is this $10 million guy really worth it, or is he going to slump backwards again? Tonight will tell a lot. And a third one, if he starts in Minnesota, is Alex Stalock, since Devin Dubnyk is still out for personal reasons.
All right, Slate approved pick time. Who is your lock on tonight's 12-game slate?
I'm going with this against basically almost not medical advice, but something to that effect.
Whoa.
I am going with Tyler Seguin tonight against the Devils. Look, the Devils are just an outright mess in every sense of the word. It's unfortunate. I do expect more goals in that game than people are expecting. Do look at the over tonight, perhaps, in Dallas, because it could get wild, a lot like it did in Nashville for New Jersey on Saturday night. But Seguin, again, against a defense that seems to not be able to have any kind of spatial concepts whatsoever, and is giving up now almost 3.9 goals a game on the road. 3.9 is just a ridiculously high number, and it doesn't really matter who is in net for New Jersey at this point. You just don't know what you're going to get, and if you can't trust it, you kind of have to go with the opposition's best player, and right now that's Tyler Seguin.
Bottoms up, Chris. Thank you, my friend. Back to NFL with Reed and Jeff next after this week's edition of Who'd I Miss On?
Week 14 Sunday is in the books, means it's time to find out who Levitan missed on. I'm Brendan Glasheen, and this is Who'd I Miss On with Adam Levitan, segment we do every Monday during the football season with Levy, recapping his not-so-great plays from the NFL Sunday main slate. We'll start here. 2 catches for 8 yards on 2 targets for Kenny Stills. He cost you $3,700. At least it didn't kill you, but Will Fuller inactive. Deshaun Watson chucked the ball 50 times, so you would have thought Stills made an impact. Watson wasn't looking his way. Why?
Good question. And the only reason that I think this was maybe a mistake is because we already had a sample of Kenny Stills failing without Will Fuller. And there were 3 games earlier this year where Will Fuller was out. Kenny Stills had this every down role with Deshaun Watson, just wasn't productive in that spot either. But yeah, this is just shocking to me, especially on a day like, as you mentioned, Deshaun Watson threw it 50 times that Kenny Stills only got 2 targets. I think we need to look deeper into why and how Kenny Stills is not functioning when Will Fuller is on the sideline.
Let's go to Alvin Kamara. He was only $7,000 even, the cheapest he's been since week 1, less than 2 yards a carry, 4 grabs for only 18 yards and 6 targets. This one had to hurt because, consider the salary, but the Saints also scored 46 points. What happened?
Yeah, I think one thing we've noticed with Alvin Kamara this year is his touchdown rate has just gone down so much. And, he gets stopped at the 1-yard line a couple times, and that's certainly unlucky. But I think generally speaking, the opportunities for him to score just have not been there as much. And also, I think just from the eye test, he doesn't look as explosive and is not able to make guys miss at the same rate that he was previously. So, yeah, I think that the pass catching role is always going to be there. And in full PPR, he's always going to have a reasonable floor. This was like the worst possible game for him. But yeah, I think the upside, I think maybe it's too late to be saying this as we're in week 14, week 15, but the upside just isn't there with Alvin Kamara right now.
Last one, Jamison Crowder caught 3 balls for 30 yards, 7 targets. Robbie Anderson stole the show, and Sam Darnold looked his way a ton. Usually this year it's been the other way around. Why did the script flip?
Yeah, I think we've started to see Robbie play better lately and Sam Darnold look for him more lately. And I'm mostly upset with myself about this one is because I'm trying to build for upside typically. And, while Jamison Crowder was maybe the safer play, the type of routes that he runs are more conducive to catch rate. But from a upside perspective, from a guy most likely to catch a long pass, to catch a long touchdown, I mean, Robbie, with the way he's been playing lately, was clearly the play. So I was upset with myself for going Crowder over Robbie. I think that was a little bit weak.
Takes a lot of courage to admit when you're wrong. That's who Adam Levitan missed on in Week 14. You can find his coverage on DK Live, the Playbook, and on Twitter at Adam Levitan. Levy will catch you next Monday to see who you missed on in Week 15. Wow, we're this deep into the year already.
We are super blessed to have our NFL panel back with us, DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich and Reed Fowler, and we want to get through all of these, so keep it a little tighter. Okay?
Yeah.
Not by much, just a little bit.
Yeah. Gentlemen, how about some high or low? So are the opening spreads for Week 15 too high or too low? Reed, the Ravens have been steamrolling opponents. The DK Sportsbook expects the same when they face the Jets. Baltimore's favored by 14.5. The 4th largest number the Ravens have been favored by in franchise history. But could this actually be too low of a
spread?
Yeah, I like that dancing, Jesse. Look, this too low. I don't think it's too low. If you look at the Ravens, of course they're steamrolling teams. They look great. They look fantastic. They're the best team in the NFL right now. But with the Jets, you just don't know where the Jets are bad. They lost to the Bengals and some other teams of unnotoriety, if that's the right word. But look, Baltimore's 1-4 ATS at home. These double-digit spreads, they kind of scare me off right now. I'm going to say it's a little too high, but I'm just potentially staying away from this game. Go with like player props, like receiving over that because the Jets have a terrible secondary. But this right now, for me, it's too high.
All right, what do you think about this spread, Jeffrey?
I think I like the Jets, and that's pretty sad.
Whoa.
It makes me sad anyways. Look, Lamar Jackson's coming in banged up. They're going up against essentially the New York Jets. I know this is hard to believe. They actually have like the best rush defense in the entire league. They're giving up 3 yards per carry. Baltimore is a run-based offense. I mean, and their mobile quarterback is now a little bit banged up going into a short rest game where we've seen a lot of Thursday night games just be like these dull offensive affairs where teams don't really get blown out. They kind of just trudge to sort of boring victories, much like kind of Minnesota a couple weeks ago in a similar spot. It's just going to be hard for them to cover a more than 2 touchdown spread, in my opinion, even against an offense as pitiful as the Jets. Look, one last factor. I mean, Baltimore's just not been a good home cover team. They're 4-10 ATS as home favorites this year. I mean, and now we want them to cover more than 2 touchdowns with a banged up Lamar Jackson. I'm taking the Jets.
Oh, guys.
Well, the Patriots are on to Cincinnati, where the Bengals are 8.5-point dogs. This spread too high or too low in your eyes, Jeff?
Yeah, I think it's too low. I just can't even make an argument here. I mean, like, I know Cincinnati's played a bit better. They've run a bit better, but the Patriots defense, this is such a bounce back spot for them. They tore apart weak opposition early in the season, especially on the road too. Shut out the Jets. Allowed 7 points to the Redskins. Just give me the Patriots here. I just think you're overthinking it if you're taking the Bengals.
Reed.
Yeah, same. At first, I was like, there's no way because the Patriots are 1-4 ATS in their last 5. But this kind of harkens to a little bit more of what was happening at the beginning of the season when the Patriots were playing terrible teams. Guess what? Cincinnati is a terrible team. Bill Belichick's better than Zach Taylor. Even though the Patriots are averaging only 17 points over the last 5 games, I look at this more as a game that's going to be closer to what we saw in the first half of the season. It's going to be the Patriots by a long shot because they're probably going to hold this Cincinnati team, to 0 to 3 points.
Reed, we've got another double-digit spread in Kansas City with the heavily favored Chiefs hosting the Broncos. 10.5, too high or too low?
Yeah, this one's interesting. The books, they really don't think that the Broncos are that good or how good they were when they beat the Texans, or the Texans aren't that good either. And Kansas City needs to win. If they want a chance to clinch home field, they need to win out. So I like this one. We have to see if Patrick Mahomes is going to be healthy. He should be playing. But those big plays, which is what has been ailing the Chiefs in covering up until this point, they're not getting those big plays. And Denver is not going to give up those big plays. So I'm going to say that Denver right now has a good shot at covering, but these division games too, they're played pretty tough. I just don't trust this Denver, even though Philip Lindsay is getting more run and he looks like a guy who could win some leagues and fantasy and season long. I just don't think the Broncos are going to be as bad as the books are saying right now. So give me Denver.
Jeff, too high or too low?
Yeah, this is probably the most interesting line for me that we're going to talk about too. I won't go too far into it, but I mean, look, the Broncos have been a really good cover team over their last 6 or 7 games. I mean, they've basically covered every game except for one. So, I mean, this is a team that's defensively, they've come on, they've put themselves in position to win, and they haven't closed out those wins. But again, just getting in position is enough when you're getting 10 points against the spread every week. So it's really hard for me to take the Chiefs here. It does look like this line is a little bit too big, just considering what Drew Lock has done in his first 2 starts. And I'm not necessarily buying into this Drew Lock is a elite quarterback all of a sudden hype, but he's been more confident than what they had before. So, I mean, that's good enough with a guy like Courtland Sutton. Like I said, stout defense. I guess right now I'm leaning towards the Broncos than the points. I think this line's probably looking a little bit too big for right now.
We got an NFC North rivalry cooking in Green Bay where the Packers are favored by 4 against the Bears. Jeff, too high or too low of a spread?
Yeah, this one's a little bit more simpler for me. I love the Bears in this spot. I mean, let's just sit back and look what the Packers have done over the last 5 weeks. Barely beat the Redskins, got blown out by San Francisco, lost to the Chargers. I mean, they're squeaking out wins here and there against bad teams, but they're not really doing anything good. The Bears are coming in with heat, man. I mean, this is a team where their quarterback is playing the best of the year. Their defense found its legs over the last game. I think they're in for a revenge spot here a little bit. I mean, this line started out at 5 points. You might get 4.5. If I can get 5 points here, I'd absolutely love this. It might be my best bet of the week, but I still like the Bears at +4. I think this is too big. It should be closer to -3 considering how the Packers have done over the last month or so.
Reed, talk to me.
Yeah, I never thought that anything would be uttered. I love the Bears in this spot in the entire 2019 NFL season, but look, you got to trust the Bears a little bit more than coming into this game, especially how they've been playing in Green Bay. 10-3, they're probably one of the hardest teams to pinpoint at 10-3 as being a good team because right now they don't look like a good team. But Aaron Rodgers against the Bears, 8-1 in terms of TD to interception ratio over the last 4. Chicago's 5-13 ATS in their last 18 games against Green Bay. I like the Packers. They need to win this one and win this one big.
All right, you two are free to go. But Reed, real quick, we're excited to see you on the NFL Network's Good Morning Football tomorrow.
Woo! 8:40.
Oh, Reed, go! I'm getting up early. I'm taping it. PV provide feedback too.
No pressure. No pressure. We're all watching.
Hey, do you know what you're going to wear? Can you give us a sneak peek?
I can't. You got to tune in and see. As Steve Buchanan likes to say, that's called a tease in the industry. So you got to wait and see. But it's probably going to be something floral.
Oh, yeah, it is. That's your style, man. Go get them, man. Make us proud.
Thanks, bud.
All right, excellent stuff. Here's Pat Mayo on Week 15 running backs. And then we're back with NBA Showdown picks.
Biggest injuries of the week at running back, Darius Geis left the game with a knee injury. He's probably going to be out the rest of the year, I would think. Rashad Penny left after one touch in the Sunday night football game. He is likely done for the season as well. Bilal Powell got hurt at the end of the Miami game. I'd say go pick up the flea market, Ty Montgomery, but Le'Veon Bell should be back Thursday night, but we'll see where Montgomery falls onto that list. I wouldn't expect Bilal Powell to play on Thursday night. It's against the Ravens, too, which is not good. Le'Veon Bell missed the game with an illness. Josh Jacob in his shoulder. We'll see where he's at. I hope we find out before waivers clear, because that could really clear up the week for us. Damian Williams missed it with his ribs. Darrell Williams out for the season. James Conner should return in Week 15. At least he and Juju are the early expectation that they will play against the Bills in Week 15. So we'll see how that goes. So the overall pickups, I really shortened the list because why do you need handcuffs anymore? If those guys aren't already picked up, they're never going to be picked up in your league. Let's face it here. DeAndre Washington is number 1 in the power rankings. Adrian Peterson is number 2. Patrick Laird, Raheem Mostert, Bo Scarborough. Those are the 5, and I think that those 5 are probably playable this week. The rest of the list is like Montgomery, Madison, Richard, Jalen Samuels, Frank Gore. You probably don't want to play those guys if you're still alive in the playoffs. But those 5, I think you can pick up and use if you need to in a pinch, if you've lost guys, bad matchups, whatever it may be.
Yeah, I agree with those. And the DeAndre Washington's number 1 for me. We'll see what happens with Jacobs. It doesn't sound great. And anyways, like the only reason you probably run him out there a little bit more is rookie of the year. It does not seem like he has a chance to catch Kyler Murray unless he just was to go off those final 2-3 weeks of the season. So I think the smart thing to do would be to shut him down. Seeing that Washington gets 20 touches, 6 receptions too, involved in both as facets, he's very much startable moving into this. The only other news I would say is, Bo Scarborough right now just continues to get fed, 19 carries. Watch his injury status. I think he left with a rib injury that I don't know if I feel confident even rostering in the playoffs. J.D. McKissick or Ty Johnson, I'd probably rank McKissick higher just right off the bat right now. But those are your main guys. AP with no Geis and DeAndre Washington seem pretty fine.
Yeah, I have Scarborough ranked 5th of those guys that are potentially startable. And you're right. He did leave with the ribs injuries. And if he does end up going, the problem is he actually did have a catch yesterday, but he's just so useless if he doesn't score a touchdown. He's a lot like David Montgomery in that way, that he kind of really needs to go off on the ground. And that's not a situation you want to be when you're the Lions running back.
Yeah, your Lions running back, it's exactly like Benny Snell, Sony Michel. These guys rely on like 15 carries, and if they're not getting that volume for the 100-yard bonus, you have to get the 1 to 2 touchdown games, and it'll happen once a season for these guys, and so it's just not worth banking on, at least in the playoffs now.
Just looking at it, if people are curious about all the running back snap shares, if you go to my Instagram page, Instagram/ThePME, you will find all the running back snap shares up there, just like in my article on DKPlaybook.com. But DeAndre Washington, 63% of the snaps. Jalen Rocket Rashad, 38% of the snaps. And the thing you have to realize about this game, yes, DeAndre Washington did end up seeing more targets than Richard, but it's very encouraging to see this split between the two, that it was basically 65-35 in favor of Washington, considering that it was close in the first half, and that was mainly all of DeAndre Washington. And then they fell way behind, which you would presume would be all Jalen Richard, but it wasn't, which is great news if Oakland can be competitive in Week 15, that you can see 80% DeAndre Washington if Josh Jacobs sits.
We are wrapping up the show the same way we started the show, talking NBA with DraftKings contributor Garion Thorne and Ben Zwyman, NBA editor for DK Nation.
Need those showdown picks for this Knicks Trails Blazers matchup. Carmelo on his new team facing his old team. Ben, who's your captain pick?
Yeah, I think it's Damian Lillard tonight. He's starting to play a lot better lately. He's got at least 24 points in the past 3 games. I think the key for Dame though tonight is he needs to find his 3-point shot, and I think the Knicks are a great spot to find it. The Knicks are second to last in terms of opponent 3-point percentage at 38.8% this season. So yeah, I think this is a spot where we're going to see close to a ceiling game for Dame. I think all the focus is going to be on the narrative with Carmelo, and this seems like a spot where Dame can really sneak in and sort of say, hey, I'm the guy to be watching tonight. So yeah, I think this is a game where he's at 17,100. So yeah, he's the highest priced player for the captain spot, but again, it's Showdown, so you have a lot of ways that you can construct a lineup to sort of fit that in. So I think Dame's the way to go.
Gary, and your captain pick, please.
I agree, Dame's a great pick, but I think if you do want to kind of take a contrarian build here and maybe attempt to get 3 of those 4 high-priced Blazers into the same lineup and go a little cheaper at that captain spot, Marcus Morris is kind of mispriced to me on this slate. He's only the 4th most expensive Nick, and while his ceiling might not be as high as someone like Julius Randle, I guess you could even say his ceiling's not as high as Mitchell Robinson. He's been by far the most consistent New York player this season. He leads the team in points per game. He leads the team in field goal attempts per 100 possessions. He's coming off a very, very good game. And like we sort of talked about in the earlier segment, the Knicks starters, their best players have just been playing, more minutes in one game. It's a one-game sample, but still, it seems like their best players are going to play more minutes than they had been before. So with the Blazers allowing the most DraftKings points per game to power forwards, I think Morris is in a pretty nice spot.
All right, Garion, who will you be stacking with your contrarian captain, Mr. Morris?
Yeah, the problem with choosing a Nick is I now have to stack Knicks. But Elfrid Payton is kind of interesting. I think if there's one spot in that Knicks starting lineup where the minutes could just fluctuate wildly on a night-to-night basis, it's point guard. They've got, I don't even want to say 3 viable point guards. They've got 3 people who are legally dubbed point guards who kind of play that position from time to time. And Elfrid Payton is the most expensive of the 3. He's probably not going to start tonight. Frank Ntilikina will probably continue to start, but I think Payton's the one who we saw early in the season. He was kind of trending as the breakout candidate of the 3. He's healthy again. He's coming off a really good game against Indiana in terms of DraftKings points. He scored over 30. And he's just someone who can stuff the stat sheet. He can't really shoot, but he can get you steals. He can get you rebounds. He's a very good passer. If his minutes start trickling up above 20 per game, which we could see tonight, I think he's just someone who's going to bring back value.
Ben, you're captaining Damian Lillard, so who do you stack with him?
Who's the logical option to stack with Damian Lillard? It's C.J. McCollum. So yeah, sort of the same stuff I said with Dame. The Knicks can't really defend the 3-point line, so I think this is a good spot for C.J. The Knicks don't really have guards that can contain either of them. Rodney Hood is out with an Achilles injury, so he's probably going to miss the rest of the season. So that opens up more 3-point shots for Dame and CJ. If you captain Dame and you throw CJ in the flex, you get a little more cap flexibility at 9,600 for CJ. I think this is a spot where if you're looking to stack the Blazers, that's definitely the way that you have to go, right? You have to get Dame and CJ into the same lineup.
Go ahead, Emerson.
You want me to?
Yeah.
All right, I'll take it. Thank you very much. I was
buddy.
kind of excited about this. Ben, so Carmelo Anthony, what are your expectations tonight as he is now on a new team facing the Knicks?
I think I'm looking to roster Melo tonight. A lot of people ignore the narrative for the NBA. I think it's very, very much in play. I think this is definitely a game where Melo is going to want to show up. Again, the Knicks aren't a great defensive team. They sort of have guys that big bodies that they can throw at him, and Marcus Morris and Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinson. But I don't think that'll matter. I think Melo's a gamer. He's going to want to show up. I'm liking him in the Showdown contest. I like him a little bit more on the 4-game slate. He's a little cheaper at 5,600. But yeah, I'm digging the narrative here. I think Melo gets to like 20-plus points. I think they're going to sort of force feed him the ball. If the Blazers end up pulling away, I think this is a scenario where they're just going to leave Melo in the game and just keep letting him chuck. So yeah, I like the Melo narrative tonight.
Okay, how much do you like the Melo narrative, Garion?
He's fine. Like, shrug emoji. I don't know. He's fine. Like, I agree with Ben. I think of all the sports, narratives mean the most in basketball. They just tend to come through more often than they don't. At the same time, in the past 2 weeks, we've now had Melo goes back to Chicago, which was a narrative. We've had Melo coming off Western Conference Player of the Week narrative. We've had Melo plays LeBron narrative. I think we just talk about Melo too much. That's my hot take for the day. He's fine. He's expensive, but the Blazers run a really, really concentrated attack when it comes to high-end hierarchy on their offense. So, yeah, he's going to take 17 shots tonight. If he hits half of them, he's going to hit value.
All right.
All right.
That's a show.
That is a show.
We're back at 10 a.m. Eastern tomorrow morning, and
that's 2 a.m. local time in Melbourne, Australia.
Have a great day.
Have a great day.
Have a great day.